Pura vida, yo soy Nelson Aggressor y estamos en otro podcast aquí con mi primo Lu y hoy tenemos unas invitadas súper especiales, unas chicas que tienen un poder increíble, ellas son Conquer Divide, está Kia y está Easy.
I have goosebumps.
Hola.
No sé cómo se dice goosebumps en español, but this is crazy. Wow. Kia and Izzy, thank you guys so much for being with us. We are colossal, huge, gigantic fans of Conquer Divide. And yeah, this is awesome. We're so happy to see that you guys, all the success that you guys have had, all the success that is coming, because only greater things is coming for your group. It is insane how awesome you guys are. So we want to say thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. We're excited.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, we're excited too. Thank you.
Bueno, vamos a empezar. Primero que todo, como dijo Lu, muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos. Es un honor que estén con nosotros. Somos súper fans. Y bueno, el año pasado tuvimos un top 30 en donde la pieza Atonement fue la número 2. O sea, estuvo a nada de ser la número 1 de todo el año y eso que solamente fue ganada por Ozzy, que fue Patient Number 9. Así es que muchísimas felicidades porque aquí en nuestro país realmente les encanta Conquer Divide.
So we're, again, huge fans. The show is huge fans. We're creating new Conquer Divide fans all over Costa Rica and all over Latin America. The new album for Slow Burn is out right now. Welcome to Paradise. Atonement and Paradise videos are on our website. At the end of the year, every year, we do a top 30 of the year. Atonement was number 2, only to Ozzy Osbourne's Patient Number 9. Because it was Ozzy, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
and Paralyze was on there as well. So we wanted to say, we're just huge fans of you guys. And on that note, we noticed that you had just finished a tour with Icon for Hire. And so how did the tour go?
It went well. It was right after the Electric Cowboy tour. So we did those kind of back to back. But yeah, it was nice because the Electric Cowboy tour had sold out mostly before we announced that we were on it. So it was cool to go on the Icon tour and like have our fans have a chance to actually get tickets to come and see us. So yeah, it went well though.
Very cool.
It was long.
Cool. Long?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were gone for 42 days away from home, you know. And I think we love touring, but it was long and hard on the body.
Yeah.
Sí, tiene que ser muy cansado, la verdad. Es un trabajo muy cansado. La gente piensa que es solo fiesta, pero realmente es un trabajo muy cansado.
Yeah, Izzy, it's a tough job. It's like a lot of people think like, oh, wow, you're on tour. You're just having fun playing shows.
Just party.
That's not work. There's no work, people.
Yeah.
We party, but
we work hard too.
Yeah. That's like
balance.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the partying is a very small percentage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's always interesting, like coming off of tour and then I have to go back to work. And I wanted to take an extra week off of work because I had been gone for so long. Unfortunately, I could only take 2 days, but it's interesting because I think my coworkers are just like, why do you need time off? You were just off.
Yeah.
But
it's not a vacation.
Ay, qué increíble. Pero bueno, hablando siempre de la, digamos, la fiesta y todo lo que se vive detrás de un grupo tan grande como el de ustedes, ¿cómo fue el festival, el Rockville y el de Blue Ridge? ¿Cómo estuvo este pasado verano?
So what was it like to play your first major huge festivals with both Welcome to Rockville and Blue Ridge Rock Festival this past summer?
Rockville was great.
Sick. Yeah.
Welcome to Rockville was cool. It was in Florida. It was very hot though, very hot to play. But so Welcome to Rockville is really cool because we actually played twice. So we played the pre-party to the festival in the evening, and then we played the next day. And the pre-party was really, really busy. We had a really big crowd. And because we were on early on the main festival day, we were worried that not that many people were going to show up. But we had a really big crowd for that as well.
We
so
did.
It was really nice.
Yeah, it was so sick.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
We were worried it was going to look kind of empty, you know, because like if it's outside, it's hard to fill the space. So we were a little bit nervous. Oh, can you hear me?
Sí,
Yes.
perfectamente.
I thought something happened in my ears, so I was like, wait, what happened? We were kind of nervous, yeah, that it was going to look empty, and then we went out there and it was like we were just like, whoa, my God. But yeah, it was really cool. We had a really good crowd for Blue Ridge too.
Even hotter. That was like
Yeah.
95 degrees, I think. So
It
ridiculous.
was really
like
hot.
that.
Janelle
Yeah.
was really sick.
Oh no.
She literally slept all day until like 30 minutes before we played. And I mean, she did great, but yeah, the crowd there was really, really good. It was so cool seeing like people so far away, like not even really watching, but then when they see everyone else like swaying their arms, they start doing it too.
Mm-hmm.
It's really
Qué
surreal.
There was a little bit of drama with Blue Ridge with the organization and everything, and that ended up getting cancelled for the remainder of the days. So I guess we were really lucky that we were able to play our set because a lot of bands weren't able to.
Oh wow.
And it was just backstage, it was a little bit unorganized, but the stage manager and our stage itself was pretty good, but it was just unorganized as a festival. But playing the show was great. The show was amazing. And we got to actually do a signing at a signing tent, which we've never done before. So that was interesting. We were like sitting all together at like a table, and people would walk up to us and we were like, hey.
Oh my God, qué bueno, qué bueno.
Yeah, that was really cool. The signing thing.
Okay,
Yeah,
vamos
you guys
con
have to
la...
get used to that. That's gonna happen a
Sí.
lot.
Yeah,
Tienen que
I know.
acostumbrarse.
There was one girl that started to cry when she met us. And so I was like, oh my God, can I give you a hug? And she was like,
Ah.
and I was like, oh my God, this is really crazy.
Esa es como la parte, esa es la parte más bonita de ser artista, yo creo, siempre, sentir el cariño del público, definitivamente.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nelson's
Yeah,
saying is that's his favorite, one of his favorite parts, probably the favorite part of doing music is just feeling that like public love and like just wow, like I can give you
The
a
real
hug and you're gonna
one,
feel
the
so
real
much
one.
happier. Like, yeah, you know?
Yeah. The love definitely keeps us going. I mean, if you didn't feel that from the listeners like we do, it would be very hard to, because like we said, touring is very hard work. So it's so nice when we meet our listeners and everything, because it just makes it all worth it, you know? Because it's easy to forget, I guess, because we're on tour for a very long time. It's easy to forget the impact that our music has on people, you know, if you're just like having a bad day or whatever, and then our fans always change our mood. They always put us in a better mood.
Yeah,
Sí,
I feel like
totalmente.
some of the best shows I've played are when I'm like in a really bad mood. And then like I'm like, I don't want to play. I just want to go to sleep. And then I get on the stage and I see the crowd and then I'm just like, this is awesome.
Sí, es un cambio de energía para los dos equipos, ¿verdad? Tanto la gente que los ve como para uno, porque totalmente somos humanos y también tenemos nuestros bad days. Entonces, cuando tú subes a la tarima, el amor y el cariño del crowd también te cambia uno todo.
Yeah, the crowd energy can change your like whole spectrum, just like you change it for them, where they've had the bad day and they're like, oh fuck yeah, I can't wait to go see Conquer Divide and get rid of everything else in life, you know?
Yeah.
Sí,
Yeah.
sí, sí.
Oh, a cat, sorry. My cat's walking by.
Vamos con la siguiente pregunta, que esa es una de mis favoritas. Recordando cuando eran niñas, ¿cuál fue la primera canción que escucharon o artista en que usted dijo, wow, aquí hay algo interesante y me encantaría hacer algo similar? ¿Cuál fue esa canción que realmente las impactó cuando eran niñas?
So this question is for each of you individually, respectfully, okay? So Kia and Izzy, when you guys were, if you go back into your memory banks and think about when you were, you know, both little, right, very like little girls, what was the moment? What's the song? What's the like that musical moment that you say would have sparked your interest and inspiration to say, oh wow, I kind of want to do music, or what is this all about?
Izzy, you want to go first?
Yeah, of course. So I think for me, so my dad is a really big metalhead. So he really liked Metallica and Iron Maiden, like all the classic bands. And every weekend I would go with my dad and go swimming. And then on the way there, it was probably like a 20-minute drive. We would listen. He would like put in Metallica in the tapes and on the tape player. So it was, I was always around metal music and listening to it. And then I had a pretty close relationship with my dad. And I feel like I did it. I wanted to play electric guitar to kind of make him proud and be like, I can do it too.
And he's very proud now.
They're in England and they fly out to a lot of shows. So they came and saw us in Montreal actually with Electric Callboy. So they're stoked. They're happy about it. My mom and my dad.
Very cool. What about you, Kia?
So my family has been pretty musical my whole life too. I actually got into like wanting to do like songwriting when I started listening to Avril Lavigne.
Okay.
But I didn't really figure out like my style of singing until later in life. I think I was in high school when Misery Business by Paramore came out. And I remember hearing it. One of my friends showed it to me and I had never listened to them before. And I remember showing it to my sister. And I remember when she does the not one of them involving, I thought, whoa, I didn't even know you could do that, you know? I remember showing it to my sister and being like, listen to how she sings this part. And I remember my sister kind of being like, okay. But I was like, this is awesome. I want to sing like that. Yeah, so that's kind of I remember that moment so vividly. Like that's when I was like, this is when I sing, I want to sound like this. And then it helped that I was also into like Demi Lovato too. But yeah, I remember that specific moment and that specific line of that specific song.
I think Avril Lavigne and Evanescence were pretty important for me as well, Kia, because I feel like
I know you love your Avril.
Yeah, because I feel like I can't remember when I first started getting into Avril, maybe 9 or 10. And that's around the same time that Evanescence were coming out. And that was like a really strong female influence, you know, that we hadn't really had before. And I was like, whoa, this is like so cool that like the girls are rocking out too. So that definitely was an influence for me as well.
Yeah, I still remember some of like the songs I wrote when I was that age, like around that age, and they sound so much like just an Avril Lavigne song.
Qué bueno. Bueno, esta siguiente pregunta es el siguiente paso después de ese momento de niñas de escuchar ese tipo de música. ¿Cuándo fue el primer momento en que ya tocaron el instrumento? Digamos, en el caso de Kia, ¿cuándo fue el momento que dijo, ok, voy a empezar a cantar? O si fue cantar, puede haber sido que sea batería o puede haber sido guitarra, igual a Izzy. ¿Cuál fue la primera vez que tocaron un instrumento e intentaron hacer música?
So, Izzy and Kia, when was the first time that you picked up an actual instrument and said, okay, you know what, let me try this? And do you remember what that was? Could it have been like, maybe even like a makeshift pot and pans drum set in the house or something like that? Like, you know, what was the first one? Kia, if you want to go first, is that?
My very first instrument I ever played was when I was in 5th grade, and in our music class, everybody had to learn how to play the recorder.
Yeah.
And I remember trying to play it, and then every time I would mess up, I would laugh, and so the air would blow through it from my laugh, and it would just squeak, and then I would just laugh even harder. I was really, really bad at it. But when I was, I think, 14, my dad bought me an acoustic guitar. My dad is like a phenomenal player. He's a great songwriter, like all of that. And he was like, I want to teach you how to play. And so that was the first time I actually played an instrument that I was kind of good at. I'm not nearly as good as Kristen and Izzy, but I know like 5 chords. I can do some covers and stuff.
Okay, cool. Izzy, what about, was it guitar or was it something else?
It was very first was recorder as well. Actually, that was the very first one. But I was quite fortunate because my parents put me in guitar lessons when I was quite young. So I had like one of those nylon string guitars that I played on festival. I think it was either 6 or 7 when I started, and then I got an electric guitar when I was I think 9 or 10. So I was quite fortunate that my my parents put me in lessons. So, and then I just kind of stuck with that. I tried piano and I tried drums very, very, very briefly as a kid, but I always just thought to myself, oh, I could be spending time playing guitar.
Qué bueno,
Nice.
qué bueno. Bueno, ahora vamos un poquito más a los inicios de Conquer Divide. La banda se formó por ahí del 2013, Easy entró en el 2014. ¿Cómo fue que se dio esa unión del grupo? ¿Fue que se conocieron por internet o cómo fue que Easy entró al grupo?
So we kind of read that the band had already formed in 2013, and then Izzy joined in 2014, and that there's a whole like internet thing on how you guys became who you are now. How exactly did that happen for the forming of the band?
Yeah, so we actually met online. I actually hadn't had like any intentions or was like looking to like be in a band or do anything like that. And I remember one of my friends from high school messaged me and was like, hey, I just saw that this other band, I can't remember what the band was, but this other band posted that they're looking for female singers online. You should audition for it. And so I did, and I was really nervous because I was like, what if this is like a scam, you know? What if this is like not real? And one of my other friends was really familiar with Joey Sturgis and all of his work and stuff. So I was like, you should come with me because then like, yeah, just in case it's like something creepy, you know, like who Joey Sturgis is and what he looks like. So when we get there, you'll know like if it's real or not. And so, yeah, I auditioned and I left and someone else came and auditioned after me. And I was so nervous, but then I was in. It was cool. And that was all she wrote for me.
And then that's it. And that's it. Kia's in there.
And then I probably joined about like a year after you, Kia, maybe.
Yeah.
And then, so I used to do guitar covers on YouTube. And it was really kind of like my own personal progress, like diary that I use. You know, I'd upload different covers to track my technical progress. And then I just got a message from Kristen on YouTube asking if I wanted to join. And I really liked the music. And I just thought, why not? At the time, I was studying music in London. But what I really wanted to do was perform. So I just came over the States, met all the girls, and then ended up moving here to Michigan.
Qué bien, qué bien, qué bien. ¿Cómo se dieron las cosas, verdad? Siempre la vida es así. Las cosas las acomoda para que sucedan.
That's crazy how life is a puzzle and it's just, oh, okay, here everything comes together all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I still remember like when I got the message because initially I thought like, oh yeah, this is probably a scam, you know, because it's on YouTube. But then I listened, Kristen sent me Eyes Wide Shut. And I was like, oh, I actually really like this, you know? And then I remember showing it to my parents. I was like, this band wants me to audition in the States. And they were like, oh, this is really good. You should go for it. I was like, okay.
Qué bueno, qué bueno. Ok, la primera vez que tocamos Conquer Divide fue la canción Chemicals en el 2021. Queremos saber cómo fue que llegaron a hacer esa piezota después de haber dado un break de un par de años en el grupo.
So the first time we played Conquer Divide was the track Chemicals in 2021, which was also the first single after you guys had been like on a hiatus for a couple of years before recording that. How did the break that you took inspire the song Chemicals?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Sí.
I'm like trying to even think like, what is Chemicals?
Well, I don't think necessarily the break inspired Chemicals. But you know, we released our debut album in 2015, and then we probably started seriously writing new ideas maybe in 2019. So I don't think the break inspired it, but we were ready to start getting back into it in 2019. And Kristen does a lot of the beginnings of like the lyric writing. So I think that would be a really good question for her. What inspired her? Because I remember us like sitting down and coming up with guitar ideas, but when it comes to like lyrics, I'm not really sure what initially inspired her to write the song Chemicals. Kia, you might have more of an insight.
Yeah. So when we were writing Chemicals, like lyrically, we were trying to explore like what it's like for a musician. So a band that I'm really into, they also had taken a break because the vocalist was going through like some addiction and mental health issues and stuff. And I remembered when they came back seeing comments of people being like basically like, oh, they were so much better back then. And so we wanted to like explore what it's like for musicians or artists in general to like do something to better themselves, but the people who are fans of them would rather those people be in a less fortunate position just for the sake of having better art. Does that make sense? I feel like I've rambled that
Yeah,
together.
no,
That makes sense.
absolutely. Yeah.
But so yeah, that was kind of like where that came from. I don't think it was inspired by the break, but it was inspired by things like I had noticed happening like in the music industry because that happens so much. Yeah, I mean the break definitely helped us write a lot of stuff and helped us realize that there are more important topics to
Yeah.
write about and focus on. So that definitely did help for sure. I don't know if it helped specifically with Chemicals, but I think it definitely helped specifically with Slow Burn as a whole.
That's
Yeah,
what we're
because
gonna
we
get
had
into right
enough
now.
time
Eso
to
es lo que ya
reflect.
venimos.
Absolutely. It's right on cue. Amazing.
Buenísimo, buenísimo. Ok, ahora Slow Burn es absolutamente un disco fenomenal, de verdad. Es que de principio a fin es muy
Thank you.
difícil encontrar en estos tiempos un disco tan completo en donde todas las canciones son buenísimas. Es que tocan temas de la protección del medio ambiente, la presión en las personas, las relaciones abusivas, el sentirse solo. ¿Cómo fue el trabajo tan increíble que hubo detrás de este disco? Porque es que realmente, cuando Lu me dijo a mí, Manuel, es que tienes que escuchar el disco de Conquer Divide, todas las canciones son buenas, yo dije, bueno, es que lo dice él porque es súper fan, pero es que la verdad es un discazo, o sea, todas las canciones son buenas. Yo dije, ma, es que de verdad, paso a la siguiente canción y me encanta, pongo la otra, me encanta, es un disco increíble. Así que cuéntanos un poquito de cómo fue todo este trabajo en este disco, Slow Burn.
So Slow Burn is an absolutely phenomenal record.
Hey.
We've never heard an album where every single track on the full album is a legit bona fide hit. I have 10 years of radio experience from back in the day where I did a lot of crazy stuff in music for a lot of big things. And I swear when I told Nelson, I'm like, Nelson, this album just came out like 3 days ago and it's in my top 5. He's like, oh, this year? Like, no, of all time. He's like, okay, no, you're just a fan of the band. No, it's really that good. It is phenomenal, amazing. I've never heard an album where all 12 tracks, it's just like, just spin the wheel and which one do you want to play on radio? It's so good.
Wow,
Most of
Yeah.
no real life, like it's
Real life.
insanely amazing what you guys did. It's not even it's amazing. You guys touch on a lot of different themes throughout the album, from protecting the environment, dealing with pressure, being in abusive relationships, feeling unwanted. Most of your lyrics feel like they're really cool in that they're about repercussions for bad behavior. Like you guys are putting the bullies in their place. Like you mess with the environment, all right, this is what you're gonna get. You're gonna mess with me, and you deserve this. So can you tell us about how you guys chose these topics for this album? Because it feels like there's an overwhelming like comeuppance as the theme for Slow Burn.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how all of them came to be. Some of them are like we mentioned, like we had that break. Some of them were things that were happening to us specifically or to people around us. I think a lot of it was just like observation based, like, oh, you know what? We've never written a song about this. We should write a song about this. But I have said before, I feel like I notice a difference in like the overall theme from this album from the old one. I feel like the last one was very like, you hurt my feelings and now I'm sad. And like you said, this one is very like, you fucked me over and now this is what you get. Yeah. I don't know, Izzy, if you want to add anything.
Yeah. So exactly. There are ditto, but I think there are definitely tracks that are purposeful. For example, Paralyze was about Kristen's own experience with the pandemic, being a nurse throughout the pandemic. She was
wow.
So that was something that she directly wrote about. But we definitely it was definitely intentional for us to develop our sound and become like a bit more mature, I guess, because we are all a little bit more grown up. So we did want to talk about things that are a little bit more serious. And I guess, like Kia said, and less of a, you hurt my feelings. You make me cry. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it's get off your fucking cross. Like, no, get off of it.
Yeah.
It's a totally different thing. Yeah.
I will be your nightmare, le dice. Ok. Vamos con la siguiente pregunta, que tiene que ver con un poco de lo que fue la escritura de las canciones y también ese trabajo increíble, porque es que la verdad, gente, si ustedes no han escuchado el disco de Conquer Divide, los invito a que escuchen después de este podcast el disco y van a entender por qué estoy haciendo esta pregunta. ¿Cómo fue ese trabajo de melodías en la voz, en donde escuchamos una melodía, después escuchamos una voz súper fuerte, después una canción con mucho anger? O sea, ¿cómo fue ese trabajo para seleccionar quién cantaba, dónde cantaba y cómo se hacía todo lo que fueran las voces?
So we do have a few questions about this album songwriting process for sure. We want to start off with Kia. Kia, for the combination of the personal vocal dynamics, along with Janelle's screams counterpart to your vocal tonality, is beautiful. It's symphonic. How do the two of you go about determining when it's time to use one or the other?
I think you can kind of just feel it out in the music. And I think it also depends on where we are lyrically in the story. Like, for example, with Atonement, it would be weird if I sang "You Filthy Fucking Rat," I think. But it sounds cool if Janelle but it sounds cool if Janelle does it, right? So I don't think it's necessarily a like, well, I want to have this part. It's more just like, well, this part sounds like it would be cool if you screamed here, and what patterns are you going to use? It's kind of just a feel thing, I guess.
Yeah, and then we are quite purposeful when it comes to our structure as well. So usually we try, when we're writing music, we'll map out like ideas of like, okay, how is the song going to progress? And then we do think about like, oh yeah, this will probably be the screaming part, a singing part. And then I guess once the sections are more developed, then we can kind of talk about, oh, maybe Kia and Janelle can pass off with each other, you know?
And Izzy, that goes into the next part of that question. How do you and Kristen, how do you and Kristen go about the guitar writing process to play off of each other?
So a lot of the time we'll be kind of sitting together, and when it comes to the guitar parts, we'll loop something, and then I'll just kind of, especially like guitar leads, we'll loop it, and then I'll just noodle over it until Kristen and our producer says like, yep, that's a good riff, let's go with this one. So it's just like a lot of looping.
I think the one way you described it to me one time, Izzy, is that you just noodle until you see Kristen go, oh, and then you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And like, okay, I'll repeat something more like that, you know? But it's for me personally, I do best when I'm with other people, as opposed to just like sitting at home and writing riffs by myself. I like to kind of sit with Kristen in the studio and just have her kind of help and be like, oh yeah, that one's good, that will work well, you know, and bounce off one another.
Ok.
Cool.
Es una pregunta muy similar a las anteriores, pero es referente a un piezón que se llama Welcome to Paradise. ¿Cómo llegaron a tener esa estructura de volúmenes de la voz y la dinámica entre altos y bajos? Así, para que nos expliquen un poquito cómo fue el hacer este piezón.
Izzy, can you tell us more about what you just touched on as far as the group going in with kind of like creating a structure on how you want to build songs. Welcome to Paradise, for example, that's not a song, that's a symphony. Okay, what you guys did there is just it's gorgeous. It's a masterpiece. There's a lot of tracks on the record that go all over, like they're just in different realms of music. They don't stay pop, they don't stay metal, they don't stay rock. They're just all over the place, which is extremely difficult to do and to do it well. How do you guys go about that? Figuring out the dynamics and deciding how you want to do this stuff. This is crazy awesome.
So Welcome to Paradise came about because pretty much Kristen's a really big Tool fan. And we had noticed once we got to that part of the album writing, we hadn't really written anything in any weird key signatures. So Welcome to Paradise is the beginning is in 10/4, so it counts in 10 instead of 4 beats per bar. So we literally wanted to write something weird. So that's kind of how we did it. Kristen was like, oh, let's try something off time. And in that kind of feel where it feels like a little bit almost like exotic. So we were using like notes that we might not usually use in other songs. The working title of Welcome to Paradise really just describes how we wrote it. The working title of it was Fuck Around and Find Out. That's what we did. We just kind of messed around with it until we liked it. And then when it comes to the lyric writing or the vocal melodies, maybe Kia can touch more on that. So do you remember Welcome to Paradise, how that lyric writing went with Kristen?
Yeah, actually, I would say Welcome to Paradise is probably the song that I helped the least on. Because I don't understand time signatures at all. So when we were like working on it, I was like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, it's hard. yeah, it's definitely difficult. It's weird.
I think Welcome to Paradise was one of those that like by the time it got to me, it was already this thing that Kristen had like worked on so much that I didn't really need to do anything to it except for just add my Kia-isms, as she calls them. I remember recording that song in the studio and being like, I can't figure out how to do it. And it doesn't make any sense because the part that I sing on is in a regular time signature. But I was just like tricking my brain into thinking that it was like not
something strange.
When I recorded it in the studio, I had to listen to Kristen singing it in one ear while I sang over it until I got it, and then I could actually record it for real. Kind of crazy.
Ok, ahora vamos con la canción favorita de Luke, que es Pressure. ¿Cómo fue, o sea, en qué se inspiraron para escribir esta canción que tiene loco al primo de Luke y la pasa poniendo todo el día que se sube al carro?
Pressure is my favorite song since I've heard it. I'm not even exaggerating. I listen to it 3 or 4 times a day. I saw the acoustic version that you guys did, which is super cool. Please tell us about the inspiration for that song. That song is beautiful.
Yeah, actually, that one's kind of funny because it's a song about not being able to write music, which is kind of interesting. It was kind of like, okay, well, we're going to come back and everything needs to kind of fall together. And if this doesn't work out for us, then like we might need to reevaluate where we are as a band. And so that was kind of the thinking behind that song. That's kind of just like, well, I really want to do well. And thinking about how much it would suck if I didn't do well is like really hard and making this harder than it needs to be kind of thing.
Overthinking more.
Yeah. Sorry, if it looked like you were going to say something and I think I cut you off.
No, it's okay. I was just thinking how Pressure is the song on the album that Tyler Smith helped produce. And when I really like Pressure as well. But what I personally really like about it is you can tell a difference with Kia's vocals because there's a lot of like vocal layers in that song, and that's what I was thinking about. It's just a cool song. I like it as well, you know. Yeah. But we played it live a couple of times before the album was released, and it's quite funny because this has happened numerous times on the album. Because I came into Pressure a little bit afterwards with the writing. So I came in and helped with a couple of leads and a couple of licks. And there's one in the pre-breakdown that I wrote, and I had accidentally written it in the wrong key on the guitar, in the wrong tuning, I mean. And live, Kia has to come help me and be my capo. And she has to do that in 2 songs, in a set, Pressure and Paralyzed, because I had got in there and I was like, and I had an idea in my head. So I just grabbed the guitar and I played it on the guitar with open strings. So it ends up being in the wrong tuning though. So Kia has to help me live with that.
Nice.
I love it. I love being the capo. It's so fun.
Yeah.
It's a nice little bonding experience.
Yeah, she goes and puts her finger on the string because I'm like up here doing some open stuff. Exactly. Yeah.
Except sometimes she runs away from me, so then I have to run to try to catch her.
Yeah, because we were on tour for such a long time. When we played Paralyzed, where she has to do it in that song as well, and it was almost like a game towards the end. Like I would try and like get away from her, and she'd have to try and find my guitar in time.
Go ahead. Ok, vamos con ya una de las últimas preguntas. Todavía faltan unas cuantas, pero bueno, ¿cómo fue trabajar con Joey, trabajando, o sea, en la producción de este último álbum? ¿Cómo fue?
Tell us about what it's like to work with Joey Sturgis as a producer.
I love working with Joey.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, you go.
No, I like it. I like it too. We trust him a lot, so that's nice, because we just trust him to make us sound good. And he's just really good at what he does, and it's quite funny because when it gets to like the ending bits and there are mixes going on with the song, it'd be like, oh, the song's been mixed 8 different times. And Kia will get this sometimes. We're just like, we can't hear the difference, but then
no idea.
We're like, sounds good.
Yeah. Like good. we'll get a mix back and it'll be like, you guys listen to this and see if there's anything you think we should change. Joey thinks we should change this. And I'm like, then I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like working with him for multiple reasons. One of the biggest reasons is because like he doesn't sugarcoat things, and his style of motivating me is the style of motivation that I respond to the best, which is like, hey, that wasn't good. And I know that you are better than that. So just do it better. And I'm like, all right.
Yes.
We have such a good like system in the studio of if I sing something, I can just tell by like just the way he presses like stop that it wasn't good. And I just need to do it again. So like every time in the studio, it's like with him, I feel like it goes so smoothly because he knows, or I know that if he stops it and the recording starts over again, you don't have to say anything. I'm just going to do it better. Mm-hmm. And when you receive a compliment from Joey, it just feels so rewarding because he doesn't just give them out for no reason,
Yeah.
Muy bien.
So, if I do something, he's like, hell yeah. I'm like,
al fin.
Yeah.
And Joe, we have a great team when it comes to being in the studio and getting our songs produced. So we do some pre-production and engineering with John Eberhard and Nick Maxgals, and then Joey comes in and like kind of oversees the final product and helps us put the finishing touches on it. It's always fun, it's always fun.
It's always so much fun. Yeah.
I
always have so much fun at the beginning of recording, and then by the end of the day, like when I've been in the booth for like 8 hours, I'm like, bored. And then I start to get hangry, and then no one has fun anymore.
Yeah.
Es cierto.
Kia no longer feels like a person. Actually, towards the ending, she's like, "I'm not a person. I am just a voice.
I'm just a machine."
Yeah.
Así es cuando están en el estudio, sí. Ok, vamos ahora con una pregunta interesante. Hay 2 momentos diferentes en 2 canciones diferentes, tanto en System Failure como en Afterthoughts, que hay un momento pequeño de silencio total. ¿A qué se debió eso? ¿De quién fue la idea?
So we have 3 quick production questions about the album, right? And so we're just have curiosity from music production nerds, right?
Lu es muy curioso.
Yeah, I'm very curious. Sorry. So there's 2 moments and 2 separate tracks on System Failure and on Afterthought where there's a brief moment of dead silence during each track, which is something very rare. That's not like a normal thing in music where all of a sudden it's just like, wait, did someone turn off the thing? What happened? Oh no, it starts again. The idea was this. Did you guys do this in post and pre? How did that come about? It's super cool. That's why.
I think actually in Afterthought, Afterthought used to have a totally different instrumental, right?
Mhm.
And then I think in Afterthought, it was John's idea to do that like moment of silence there.
Mhm.
And I remember when I heard it for the first time, I literally was just like, what the fuck? Like that is so sick. I don't really understand like the technical aspects behind it. I don't know if you do, Izzy.
I think it's called a hard stop. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called.
There's very few.
We've talked about
it.
it before, but it's definitely very dramatic, and I think it is used in like more like metalcore music, but you don't want to like overdo it, you know? So we've tried it. I can't remember where we've tried it, but we've tried it in the past and it just like hasn't really hit hard. But in those songs, it really does hit really good, especially System Failure.
Yeah, that one's so sick. Ah! Yeah,
Sick.
dude, listening to that in the car when that happens is just like so hype. It's so good.
Yeah, it's funny because some people might be like, "Oh, what happened?" You know,
Sí, what happened?
Tie it up.
Yeah.
Hey, tome de una vez. Pero sí, muy
Yeah,
bueno,
it
muy
is
bueno.
so sick.
Ok, esta pregunta es más que todo para Easy, ¿verdad? En la canción Afterthoughts, ¿cómo fue ese back and forth de la guitarra en esta pieza?
During Afterthought, is that your guitar line or yours and Kristen's are panning back and forth?
So we haven't actually played Afterthought live yet. So we haven't decided who's going to play which part live yet. I have a feeling we're going to be trading off though. We're going to be trading off between, but I'm excited. That's one that we haven't added to our set yet. So we haven't practiced it all together. So it's just been in the studio when we put it down.
Very cool.
Ok. Esta es para Kia. Hay dos notas altísimas en la pieza Playing with Fire and Wide Awake. ¿Cómo fue ese trabajo tan brutal para llegar a esas notas?
We're checking our audio tone, see if we still have it after all these years. We think that the two highest notes you hit, Kia, are during Playing with Fire and Wide Awake. Are we correct?
I don't remember what the highest note is in Wide Awake off the top of my head, but Playing with Fire, yes, I'm pretty sure that's the highest one. And it was really, really hard to do. Really hard to do. I think at one point we used something from my demo because like day of in the studio, I was having a hard time with it. So there was, I think, one part where I hit it once and then we just like copied and pasted it because it was so hard.
It's so hard.
And what's crazy about it too is that I can hit that note, but then when you start to like think about it, like it's so much just a mental thing. And excuse me, and that song like lyrically is really hard for me. So it was just like I was not doing good that day. But yeah, definitely that I remember that being the hardest one. I can't remember what note is the highest in Wide Awake though off the top of my head.
There's an awake that you hit at the very end when you're like, it might be the very last awake at the last chorus. It is kind of high.
Is it the If I Stay?
There's an actual, and it might be that one or the actual. There's
See, we don't know.
An actual awake, like the last awake that you hit, like at the very very end is like wow, like very high pitched too.
I don't remember. Is it in the harmonies maybe? Because a lot of the harmonies in a lot of the songs are very very high. So it might be something in the background. Because when we do our harmonies, I really like having a ton of layers of harmonies, which I end up getting annoyed with because I'm like, ooh, let's do this, this, and this. And then I have to track all of it. But yeah, a lot of the harmonies for the whole record, there was a lot of really, really high stuff. I remember like Joey being like, this is going to be the highest note you've ever hit. And then I'd be like, I can go higher. And then I would just regret it.
Sí, qué bueno, qué bueno. Ok, En este último tour, ¿pudieron tocar todas las canciones de este último disco o no?
So, Izzy, you just mentioned that you haven't performed Afterthought live yet. Were you guys able to perform the rest of the tracks at some point during the last tour with a either or Icon for Hire and with Electric Callboy?
So
Or there's-
we played all of the singles that we've released. So that is Atonement, New Heaven, Paralyze, Welcome to Paradise.
Do you have a set list on the wall?
Yeah.
Para que no se les olvide.
No,
Bien,
no.
bien, muy bien.
And not the set list. It's just like the album list that I have, and I have like all the BPMs put on there and like the tunings of each one. So for practicing, but yeah, we did all of our singles because our set was only 30 minutes long, and we wanted every single one to be a single that people have heard before. If we had a longer set, maybe like 45 minutes, we would have felt more comfortable maybe playing things like System Failure or Afterthought. But we really wanted it to be like our well-known music. And of course, the album was released during the tour, so not everyone had heard like Afterthought and System Failure yet.
Bueno, yo personalmente tengo una gran admiración por el grupo de ustedes porque realmente hacen las cosas increíbles, pero quisiera saber si en este camino tan difícil de la música han encontrado algún obstáculo por ser mujeres.
So Conquer Divide is fucking amazing. Not as a female band, as a rock metal
band.
band. Okay, period. That's just number one. However, what are some of the obstacles that you guys have faced so far as a full female band?
So I think it's kind of like a double-edged sword being in a female band because there are struggles that come along with it. For example, when we weren't signed and we went with a record label and we were shopping around, we had people replying to us like, hey, like this is really good, but we've already got a female band on our roster, like we can't have another one, you know what I mean? So that's tricky because it's almost like you're put into a smaller box. And that's exactly actually what our last song on the album Gatekeeper talks about. But at the same time, some people like us for the fact that we are an all-female band as well. And like some people really like female-fronted music as well and the sounds of female artists. So there are positives and negatives. And it seems like they're both very extreme, you know, like it's like you either love us or you hate us.
Yeah. I think the classic trope too of just being a woman, a boss bitch, if you will, is that when you try to get things done, sometimes it's perceived in a more negative way than it might be if you were a man trying to get something done, you know, coming off as a bitch instead of just as a person who's just working really hard. And I mean, it happens in all fields. And I mean, my least favorite thing is like when I feel like in some venues, it has happened in the past where the people working there just assume we don't know what we're doing. And they kind of try to dumb it down so we can understand why we have to do it this way. And we're like, no, we're not going to do it that way because we know what we're talking about. So
muy bien.
Yeah. And I think the classic thing, Kia's been called sweetheart too many times, right, Kia?
I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
On one of the days
sweetheart.
On one of the days on the last tour, someone like this guy literally said like, well, sweetie, I don't think you understand. And I was like, no, don't talk to me like that.
Muy bien.
I'm too old for this shit.
Good.
Muy bien, muy bien. Así tiene que ser. Ok, ya casi son las últimas preguntas. Esa es una pregunta que a mí me gusta hacer siempre y es, existiendo tanta música y tantos artistas, ¿hay alguna canción que tiene que ser de sus favoritas que usted dice, pucha, a mí me hubiera encantado haber escrito o haber compuesto esta canción? ¿Y cuál canción sería?
This is for each of you respectfully. We're going to go to Izzy first. Izzy, when you think of all the music that you've heard, regardless of genre, doesn't matter, okay? Guilty pleasures, whatever it is there one song in particular that you go back to, you're like, oh man, I wish I would have wrote that song?
Actually, I think
no.
What?
I know I have to answer this too. I'm just thinking. Sorry.
So I don't think I have a specific song in mind, but my favorite album growing up, probably like metal, when I first got into metal, was System of a Down Toxicity. So really anything from that album, like there's a lot of cool guitar riffs in there, and they're not necessarily really complicated, but that would have been nice to write that album.
El feeling de ese disco es increíble.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Nelson's saying the feeling on that album is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's so like angry as well, and raw, but we didn't write that album, though, did we, Kia?
Sí.
Unfortunately not.
What about you? What's the one song that you're like, oh man, that one?
Wow, that's so hard because there are so many that I think of when I think of this question. I don't know how much I can narrow it down, but honestly, anything off of Lord's Melodrama album, I think that her writing style is so raw and like beautiful, and like it's like you're just reading her diary, and I think that is so, so powerful. And then the other one that comes to mind is a song that I don't listen to it all the time, but every time I do, I'm like, fuck, this is good. And that's Total Revenge by Say Anything. I think it's the same thing. It's because of the lyrics are so just like, wow. And like the metaphors are so good. And the structure of the song is like so well done. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's as narrowed down as I can get with that.
I actually think I've had this conversation and with my husband, we've done it like, oh, imagine what it feels like to write that song. And I did have one. I had one other one because I remember we talked about it, and that's the ending solo for Purple Rain, Prince. I remember. Yeah, that's like one. Like, and I was like, Dad, imagine writing that. That'd be
Es que es una obra de arte, definitivamente. Sí. Bueno, chicas, ya casi vamos por las últimas preguntas. Es un poquito más como personal, como cuando están en el tour, para ir ya como cerrando este podcast que ha estado lindísimo. ¿Cuál es esa comida que cuando tú vas de tour dices, ya llegamos a tal lugar y ahí está esa comida que a mí me encanta? ¿Qué lugar es? No hay comida.
So this is just personal random questions, which we want to just give a teaser to talk about your Patreon account that you guys just started, where Conquer Divide fans can learn about this stuff and everything else. So this is just teaser questions. All right, for both of you, what's the favorite food that you found while you've been on tour, where you've been like, oh my God, we have to go back to Blake because the food there was amazing.
Quiero tacos.
So when he first asked this question, all I could think was on this last tour, I ate so much ramen from gas stations. Yeah. And sometimes I would be drunk and I couldn't decide between two ramens. So I would get both and combine them together. And I always regretted it, but I would still just do it. But
she's crying. It's a very sad story.
No, I'm just laughed. As soon as I heard him say food, I was like, oh no.
Oh no.
And I would like encourage Kia. We would be in like a gas station at like 2 a.m. and she'd be like, should I do the double ramen? I'm like, yes, you should do the double ramen. And she would get 2 completely different brands and then heat them up in the microwave and then put them in one bowl. And then I would always check in with her when she was like eating it. I'm like, how you doing? Like, how you feel it? And she's like, this is good.
I'm like, I'm going to eat this whole thing. Okay. But on a serious note, like good food, I'm trying to think. Can you think of any places, Izzy?
So I this is from like forever ago, but I can't remember when we played El Paso. Was that All Stars tour? I think it was, right?
Yeah.
I always remember because we went to this, I think me and Sarah went to this, I can't even remember the restaurant, but it was a restaurant and they did vegetarian or vegan, like tofu wings. And I wanted regular chicken wings because I'm not vegetarian. But I ordered these like buffalo tofu wings and they were so good. And I was like shook because they were so good. And I can't remember where it was, but they were really good. And now like I eat tofu sometimes because of that.
Wow.
Because it was so good.
Okay.
There was somewhere we went. Oh, sorry.
No,
please, Kia.
There was somewhere we went on the Icon tour when we went for Lee's birthday that had zombie burger. Where was that?
It's called Zombie Burger.
I know, but what city was it in?
Oh, sorry. I actually have 1 second. I can find it.
I don't remember where it was, but it was so good.
Des Moines.
Nice.
Oh, was that the last show?
Iowa?
Yeah, it was in Iowa. Yeah, it was really good. Zombie burger.
It was the Walking Dead themed fast food place. It was good. Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Very interesting.
Ok, y hablando de cosas del día, ¿qué grupo o qué canción acaban de escuchar en la mañana? O sea, ¿qué grupo estaban escuchando antes de venir aquí a la entrevista o estaban escuchando cuando se levantaron o en el carro? No importa el género, ¿qué acaban de escuchar?
Okay, no lying. What was the last music you heard, Izzy? Anything that you heard today, that you were listening to today? What was the last thing you heard today?
Get the stallion in the gym.
Yeah.
I listen either in the gym. I either listen to like rap music or metal. Like both of them get me hype, and it's kind of like it depends what mood I'm in, which one I pick. But I like female rappers, you know, because it's kind of like it's kind of like the same thing with being in a female fronted band. It's like girl power, you know. So
that's awesome. What about you, Kia? What was the last thing you listened to?
I just pulled up my Spotify. The last thing I listened to was Cursed by Gideon. Wow. And actually, I remember this now because I was driving to work yesterday where I work as a preschool teacher and I had the windows down and the music all the way up. And it was I was like, this is such a vibe, dude. I wasn't expecting that to be it, though. I was expecting something way different, but that's kind of a cool answer.
Ok, en nuestro programa La Dosis siempre queremos poner música nueva porque también nos interesa aprender mucho. ¿Hay algún grupo que ustedes digan, ok, este grupo no es tan conocido, pero tienen que escucharlo, o algún grupo de algún amigo que nos quieran recomendar para también ponerlo en la radio?
So we're always looking for new music here on La Dosis. Obviously, we were super fortunate to discover you guys years ago and everything that you guys are going to become. So we're so honored to have you here with us. While you guys have been on tour during this past summer and just in general, are there some other bands that you guys were like, oh, wow, that band is awesome and that are kind of unknown that Nelson and I need to say, we got to hear this?
What, Kia, do you remember what that the female fronted
with purple hair? Gina Fritz. That's who I was gonna say. We played at a show with Icon for Hire, and the opening band was this band called Gina Fritz, which that's just the name of the vocalist. Gina Fritz. Yeah, it's Gina. Fritz is Fritz. Okay. She actually is about singer. So good. Her stage performance is like her presence is so good. She's about to release new music actually. I follow her on Instagram, so I've been kind of trying to keep up with it. But yeah, Gina Fritz for sure. I think she lives in Connecticut, right? Is that where we were? I don't even remember. Yeah, it's Connecticut. Yeah. But yeah, they're so good. They're so good. And I think it's so cool that the band is just named after her. Like, that's so sick.
Don't get any ideas, Kia.
I was going to say, come back to Kia Castillo and like,
I'd do it. I'd follow Kia to the ends of the earth.
Oh, I follow you too.
Thanks, Kia.
Bueno, hoy estuvo entretenidísimo, chicas, muchísimas gracias, pero antes vamos a hablar de todo lo que ha sido el Patreon, así es que explíquenos por qué la gente tiene que inscribirse en el Patreon de ustedes y qué pueden encontrar ahí.
So again, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. For viewers that want to learn more about the wonderful band Conquer Divide, you guys just launched a Patreon. So if you guys want to tell everybody what Patreon is for people like, okay, what is that and what they can expect from Conquer Divide, because you guys also have a awesome social media and I love watching to see every week what you guys end up doing.
So Patreon is basically like a fan club for listeners, and they can subscribe to different amounts every single month, and you get like different perks in different tiers. And it's a way for us to reach our fans, to give them like exclusive content, and just really, and it helps us as well because it helps us get paid for our music, which we don't really get paid for our music, and we want to be able to do this full time. Like Kia says, when we come back from tour, we have to go back to our jobs, and ideally we don't want to do that. We want to just be able to like write music and just like put our full effort into Conquer Divide. So it's a way to help us do that.
Muy bien, excelente. Así es
help
que, gente,
us
ya
help
saben.
You.
Sí, ya saben que tienen que inscribirse al Patreon de Conquer Divide para que puedan hacer más trabajo y puedan conocerlas un poquito más. Aquí abajo está puesto absolutamente todo. Así es que hay algo más, Luisito, para despedir el programa y decirles unas palabras lindas a ellas.
That's it. So thank you guys so much. We are so grateful, and we are so happy to have spent this time with you guys. We hope that we can meet other members of the band as well. The next time, we hope that we can have hopefully an influential role in being able to bring you guys down to Costa Rica for the first time and to Central and South America. Nelson.
Sí, la verdad, gente, si no han escuchado Conquer Divide, tienen que escucharlo. Igual ya lo hemos puesto muchísimas veces en la dosis. De verdad es un honor que hayan compartido un ratito con nosotros. Qué chicas más especiales, simpáticas y lindas. Así es que muchas gracias. Recuerden escuchar Conquer Divide.
Conquer Divide.
Thank you so much for having us.
Gracias.
Thank you.
No,
this is
ustedes,
great.
chicas,
Gracias.
Thank you, ladies, so much.
Okay. Hey,
This
is
Kia
and Izzy
from
Conquer
Divide.
And
You are
listening.
This isn't working.
Try again. We can do it. We can do it.
Eso son los bloopers, no importa.
Okay. Hey,
This
is
Kia
and Izzy
from
Conquer
Divide.
And
You
are
listening
to
La
Dosis.